First and foremost, a moment of silence for the now officially retired 13-inch MacBook Pro. Okay, that's done. The point is, guys, the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M3 processor has officially replaced the previous 13-inch model, and this transition was coming sooner or later, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. In today's review, we're gonna go through the typical ups and downs as an end user you can expect with this device. Now, before I get into that though, it is mandatory to give all the laptops on this channel a cinematic introduction. Let's talk specifics. So this is the entry-level 14-inch MacBook Pro, which means you get the base M3 processor, which has 8 CPU cores and 10 GPU cores. Additionally, I did opt for 16GB of unified memory, though in the true base configuration you get 8GB, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Additionally, you do have Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5 standards on board, and obviously this is a 14-inch display. So let's get into the nitty-gritty details of this review. This is the first time we're seeing a base M series chip share the same design as the higher end M Pro and M Max chip on the MacBook Pro series. This ultimately is a great thing because I love the industrial design of the outgoing MacBook Pro. It's linear, it's symmetrical, it looks like a professional laptop, and I have no problem with this transition whatsoever. I also like the fact that you do get two color options, so you can get it in space gray as well as silver. It's also worth noting the laptop has an overall weight of about 3.4 pounds, which makes it 0.2 pounds lighter than the highest end M3 Max chip. I also want to point out that Apple really wanted to find a way to remind you that you are getting a entry-level MacBook Pro. While they were generous enough to give us the same design, they kept the exclusive space black color for the M3 Pro and the M3 Max chips. Again, just to remind you, you're basic. The entire body of the MacBook Pro has a clean metallic exterior, so starting with the top side, immediately you will notice you have a flat surface here, no unnecessary textures, it's clean and smooth. At the center, of course, you do have that shiny Apple logo with a reflective surface. There is some degree of fingerprint magnetism here, but it's not as bad as, let's say, the likes of the Galaxy Book, for example. The rear side of this laptop is pretty clean. You'll notice you have a nice and large fin here for the heat exhaust vent. Now, all the ports are on either side of this machine. So starting on one side, you'll notice you have the proprietary MagSafe 3 charging port, two fully loaded Thunderbolt 4 or USB 4 ports. Additionally, you have the good old headphone jack. On the other side, you get a HDMI 2.1 port and a full-size SD card reader. Now, the only difference between this model and the higher-end Pro models is that they have one additional Thunderbolt 4 port, so you're not missing out on a whole lot, and it's a huge upgrade compared to the 13-inch I/O selection we had. The bottom side is pretty clean. It's a nice metallic surface. You do have 4 rubber pads on all 4 corners, of course, and then you do have an engraving of the MacBook Pro branding. Additionally, you will notice you have large long linear fins on either corner. This is, of course, for the primary air intake function. And this is really good because you can actually use this laptop on your lap, because 95% of other laptops keep the air intake vents in the dead center of the bottom area, something that honestly should be a common sense solution, but cheap engineering. This portion of the video is in partnership with Insta360. If you're looking for the perfect smartphone gimbal, look no further. The Insta360 Flow is honestly the best one out there. If you get the creator's kit like I have over here, you get a lot of cool goodies right out of the box. First and foremost, of course, inside some protective and fancy packaging, you will find the Insta360 Flow gimbal itself. Additionally, you get all the cool charging accessories that you need to operate this thing, and on top of that, they provide you with this cool little flashlight or spotlight accessory over here, which connects onto the gimbal, and finally, of course, a nice little pouch to keep it all together. Now, the thing I love about the Flow is that it's extremely portable. It's designed to take as little space as possible, but unfolding the thing is also very simple. It's a straightforward mechanism that takes no more than a couple of seconds, and then on top of it all off, you have this nice magnetic accessory that just snaps right in place, and there you have it. The gimbal is good to go. You also have have super clean controls over here, which make it really easy to navigate it. You can control the gimbal through the joystick or the automated motion detection functionality as well. Thanks to the amazing 3-axis stabilization, you will notice you get super smooth footage whether you're walking in the park or perhaps you're just outright running. It is totally awesome and very practical. Additionally, advanced features like built-in AI tracking also allow you to instantly scan an object or a person, and then the gimbal will automatically detect them and move along with them, which is a feature that's actually pretty unique to the Flow itself. You also have awesome battery life with up to 12 hours, and charging is done through USB-C. And did I mention that you can also use this thing as a tripod or a selfie stick? All those functions are built in and super accessible. So go ahead and get the Insta360 Flow if you want the best smartphone gimbal out there. And go ahead and use my affiliate link and you'll get a special deal including a 12% discount off the retail price, a complimentary Spotlight that doesn't normally come with it, and a t-shirt. So what are you waiting for? Go and get it right now. The first 20 orders to do this will get all the things I mentioned. If you want to learn more about the product, again, I will leave links in the description below. When you unfold this laptop, it really feels more like a 15-inch laptop than a 14-inch one. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's just because of the high quality metallic exterior, that space gray color, combined with a decent amount of palm rest space, you get the immersion of a much larger machine. Now, my personal favorite thing, of course, is that trackpad in the dead center. Firstly, it's colossal in size. I mean, look at all the surf real estate you have over here. Secondly, it's glass surface, so it feels super premium, and it's also pretty much immune to flex, so it feels tactile, there's no bending, it doesn't feel cheap or finicky in the slightest, and if you used Apple's trackpad, you know how well calibrated they are. The only nitpick I have is that this thing is a pretty bad fingerprint magnet, and it can ruin the aesthetics time to time. As far as the keyboard goes, now look, I still think the keyboard on the MacBook Pro is fantastic, but I no longer think it's the best one out there. So firstly, you do have nice large keycaps, they're really well labeled. I also love the fact that the keyboard is fully backlit and the backlighting is vivid, so you can actually see it and use it practically. Additionally, the keyboard has a great layout. However, the typing experience, in my opinion, is great, but not the best any longer, so you still have a decent amount of key travel. It feels fairly tactile, but when I compare it to the likes of, for example, the Lenovo Legion series of laptops or even Lenovo's IdeaPad series of laptops, I actually think those are better keyboards. They're more tactile, they have a more subtle and smoother finish, but it might come down to preference. Nonetheless, the one problem I do have with this keyboard is that it is an utter fingerprint magnet. I mean, this thing can accumulate more oil than Texas has at times, which is just crazy, and it totally ruins the aesthetics. I don't know how this got past Apple's marketing slash designing slash QA slash everything team, honestly. Next up, we get to the hinge quality, and I really don't have much to say. The hinge quality on the MacBook Pro is fantastic. I mean, there's practically no wobble, it's sturdy, it's fine-tuned, you can open it up with a single hand. It is, again, one of the best hinges out there. Now, the display fitting is definitely modern, but not necessarily the most immersive, so you do have a notable chin at the bottom. Yes, it's a clean design, but I'm going to call it like it is a somewhat fat chin for such a sleek laptop. Now, thankfully, the bezels are fairly narrow on either side. I like them, they're clean and crisp, and same thing with the forehead. It's super thin, it's barely noticeable until, of course, you get to the notch, but honestly, you get used to the notch in like less than 2 minutes using this machine, and it's not something I think that needs to be criticized any longer. Now, at the center of it all, you do have a full HD FaceTime webcam over here, and honestly, it's still one of the better webcams in 2023. It does great across various lighting settings, and I personally really like it. Now, say what you will about Apple, but one thing they always do nicely is that they don't create artificial distinctions between their displays on the same model. So whether you get the base M3 chip or the highest end M3 Max chip, you get the same Liquid Retina XDR display. In terms of specifications, that means you get the 14-inch variant here, of course, with a 3024 by 1964 native resolution, which gives you about 254 pixels per inch. Additionally, you get a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio. You also have full support for ProMotion here, which means you get a maximum 120 Hz refresh rate. And my favorite part is the insane sustained brightness of 600 nits with SDR content, which goes up to 1000 with HDR content, and you can peak at 1600 nits, which basically means unless you plan to launch this thing straight at the sun, glare will not be a problem in almost all cases. Additionally, in terms of color accuracy, you are getting a 99% DCI-P3 color gamut coverage or 100% sRGB as well. So basically, no matter what the creative or color sensitive activity you might be doing, you're totally covered in terms of the color quality. A quick recap of the technical specifications again. So we do have the standard M3 chip over here with the 8-core CPU and 10-core GPU. Additionally, we do have 16 gigabytes of unified memory, which can be upscaled to 24 gigabytes or downscaled to 8 gigabytes. And then we get a standard base storage of 512 gigabytes in SSD form factor. However, that can be upscaled all the way up to a colossal 2 terabyte. In basic English, this basically means that day-to-day performance or activities like surfing the web, watching full HD or even 4K content on sites like YouTube, doing word processing, number crunching on Excel are obviously a no-brainer for this machine, and this is all the power you'll ever basically need. More demanding activities like programming or 3D renders, for example, or perhaps doing photo editing are also entirely viable, though I highly suggest you get 16 gigabytes of unified memory rather than the base 8. You will thank yourself. It makes a huge difference in performance when you're running more intensive activities. And then for the most demanding of activities, unsurprisingly, 4K multi-layer video editing on programs like DaVinci Resolve, a total breeze for this machine for the most part. Now, you can get occasional frame drops if you dump too much stuff. However, I was honestly surprised at just how good the M3 chip is at handling 4K content when you're doing video editing. That's not an easy task. A lot of mid-range PCs can't do that, so credit is due where it's due. Gaming is not something I usually recommend on any Mac product. I mean, it's not really designed for it after all, but in case you are curious nonetheless, if you can find a good game to run on it, for example, Cities Skyline, you'll be pretty impressed with what this thing can actually do. So this game has a lot of simulations. It's pretty heavy on the CPU. Despite all that, with a full-size city, I'm consistently getting north of 60 frames per second. It's smooth. There's no unnecessary stutters. It's just a great performance. So with the Mac again, if you can find good games to run on it, it's a pretty capable machine. Now, the M3 chip also supports up to one external display on this MacBook Pro with a maximum resolution of 6K at 60 Hz. As far as self-upgradability goes, unfortunately, nothing on this laptop is upgradable, so it is imperative you get the right amount of storage, RAM, and of course the right processor. Otherwise, you're pretty much going to have to buy a new MacBook. The 70 watt-hour battery with the M3 chip can give you up to 22 hours of consecutive video playback. Even in our real-world test doing day-to-day activities, we were able to get around 17 hours on a single charge, which is honestly just absolutely amazing. Same thing with speakers. You get the same 6-speaker system you get with the rest of the MacBook Pro models, which means you get some amazing audio. It's crisp, it's clear, there's a lot of depth, and honestly, this is one of the few speakers on a laptop where I feel very confident not using headphones. With a $1,600 price tag, look, the fact is that this is not a budget or even mid-range level laptop. It's well into premium laptop territory. However, a lot of people think that the entry-level M3 chip is an entry-level processor altogether. That's just not the case. It's at the bottom of Apple's catalog, but it competes with some high-end Intel and AMD chips right there. And the thing is that this is a chip that's capable of day-to-day stuff, like I mentioned, but can do some of the most robust activities like programming, video editing, photo editing, and everything in between. In fact, I'm willing to say that 85% of you have no need to go beyond this Pro model, unless you really want that space black color for whatever reason. But again, that's how proficient this MacBook is, and you're getting a lot of high quality components here, a nice build factor. Battery life is just stunning, audio quality is great, the display is also very nice. There's a lot of great things to say. The only downside I will say with the MacBook Pro that continues to be a problem is that there is a lot of fingerprint magnetism here, which can take away from the aesthetics, and of course having potentially a USB-A port as well would have been nice, but that probably would also take away from the aesthetics from Apple's perspective, which I think is a big factor of why it's not there to begin with. But overall, again guys, this is the perfect Pro model for most of you if you are interested in going down the Pro route. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the M3 14-inch MacBook Pro, whether you have it or are looking to get it. I welcome all of the comments. As always, if you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video. They take a ton of time to make, a lot of research and development goes into them, so your subscription means the world to me and this channel. Catch you in the next one.